When Tucker opened his eyes again, Jeff lunged at him. Tucker managed to dodge the knife, and he pulled a small pocket knife out of his back pocket. Jeff instantly recognized it as the same pocket knife he had thrown at Wendy that night. How the hell did he get it? Tucker pointed the knife at him. "Let's go, pretty boy," Tucker said through his teeth. Jeff stood up, a little straighter, and put his hand on his chest. "You really think I'm pretty?" he mocked. He chuckled and then crouched to prepare for another strike, but Tucker had suddenly gone pale. "It was you, wasn't it?" he murmured. "You were there, laughing the time I talked to Abby." Jeff shrugged. "She was quite amusing." Tucker gritted his teeth and swung his balled-up fist at him. Jeff casually grabbing it in midair and squeezed it as hard as he could, causing Tucker to cry out in pain. But it wasn't the hand that was holding the knife. Before Jeff realized this, Tucker swung his knife, wielding hand around and stabbed Jeff in the side. Jeff howled in agony, but didn't loosen his grip. Jeff looked down at the knife and the practically black blood flowing around his wound. It had been a long time since he had felt pain like this. His victims rarely fought back. He sort of liked it. He brought his own knife down and swiped at Tucker, but Tucker pushed the blade deeper, causing Jeff to finally let go. He backed away and pulled out the small knife before Tucker ran at him and tackled him to the floor. Jeff dropped both of the knives as Tucker sat on his chest and started punching him in the face, roaring with every hit. Tears ran down his face as visions of Abby and Wendy's smiling faces flashed through his mind. Jeff flipped him over and punched Tucker as hard as he could. He wrapped his arms around Tucker's neck to choke him, but the sharp pain in the side allowed Tucker to gain the upper hand. Tucker pressed down on the spot where he had stabbed Jeff and pushed him off. Then he stood up, commencing to kick and stomp Jeff repeatedly as he withered around on the floor, cradling to his side. Getting exhausted, Tucker straightened up and walked to where the bloody pocket knife lay, crouching down to pick it up as he sighed. "She was the best person I'd ever met, and you took her away from me," he muttered dryly. Jeff sat up on one elbow and giggled as he wiped his face. Tucker turned and glared at him. "Laugh all you want. You won't be laughing when the police get here." Jeff stopped giggling. "The police are on their way, huh? Guess I better wrap this up." Jeff hopped up and marched towards Tucker. Tucker stood and aimed the knife at him. "This is for Abby and Wendy." Tucker swung the knife at Jeff 3 times, but each swung miss. It was clear that Jeff had been holding back before. Tucker held the knife over his head and tried to stab Jeff. Jeff simply sidestepped and struck Tucker back as he went past him, causing Tucker to fall to the floor with a loud thud. Jeff grabbed Tucker by his hair and stood him up. Before Tucker could react, Jeff hit him in the gut a few times. Then he banged Tucker's forehead into the nearest wall and let him sink to the floor. As Tucker tried to stand up again, Jeff picked up his knife and went over to the bed and sat down. He looked down at the dead girl and chuckled. "Not so tough now, is he now, Clarissa? I wonder how I should kill him." He paused for a moment and then put his ear close to her slightly open mouth. What was that?" Pause. "Aw, but that's no fun." Another pause as Jeff tapped his cheek with his knife. "You're right, it needs to be quick since the police are going to be on their way." Tucker finally stood up. He yanked Jeff up by his hoodie and slammed him against the wall. He raised the pocket knife, preparing to take a life for the first time. "Now die, motherfucker." Tucker was about to sink the knife into Jeff's heart when a sound on the distance stopped him. It was the sound of police sirens, meaning that his saviors were almost there. He was only distracted for a moment, but it was long enough for Jeff to turn the tables on him before Tucker could move. He covered Tucker's mouth with one hand and held the knife to his throat with the other. As Tucker fought to get free, Jeff whispered in his ear, "Now you can join Abby in the land of dreams and nightmares," Jeff said as he slid the knife across Tucker's throat. "Sleep forever." Tucker's body went limp, and Jeff wasted no time in hoisting him and carrying him through the small door. He cringed a bit from the pain in his side, but he knew there wasn't much time. Though the door was much smaller and with nothing but a metal operating table in it, he would often use in this room to torture his victims before finally finishing them off. A small sound escaped from Tucker's lips. "Abby, I'm so sorry." Jeff realized that he had still been hanging on to life by a thread. He laid him down on the table and quickly tied his hands and feet down. That way, if he could just lie and bleed to death, he ripped the bottom half of Tucker's shirt and wrapped it around his chest to use as bandage for his wound. Jeff started to leave as he heard the front door open downstairs, followed by 2 voices. But he had an idea. He wanted to leave his mark on this little town before he left for good. He dipped his 2 fingers in a pool of blood that was forming around Tucker's neck and wrote one final message on the wall. "Jane, I got something over here," he heard a female voice yell. Time to leave. Jeff quickly grabbed everything he needed, which was only a computer and no other belongings besides his knife, and he blew out the candle. He slipped out of the room. He didn't need the light because he knew the house was in the back of his hand, and quickly hid in a trapdoor that blended in the hallway. Just as the 2 cops, an older male and a younger female, came up the stairs. As he had hoped, although they shined their flashlights on the door, they did not notice it. He waited there until they entered the room. As he crept down the hallway, as quiet as a killer in the night, he heard the female officer said, "He must have found out we were coming." Their conversation continued, but he didn't care to listen. He needed to get the hell out of there. As he crept down the stairs, he could hear more police officers coming in from the front door. He ducked under the table as they walked in. They spread out and searched, shining their flashlight at every little thing. He knew he couldn't stay under the table for long. Luckily, it was pitch black inside the house, so he moved through the darkness, ducking behind something when a flashlight beamed or a cop came in his direction. Although the computer was weighing him down, he kept this up until he finally was out the front door. He tiptoed outside and headed towards the cornfields, carefully to avoid 2 cops who were exploring the side of the house. As he reached the cornfields, he heard shouting coming from the second floor. It sounded like a female cop. She must have found Tucker and his little message. The 2 officers who were outside quickly ran inside, guns drawn. Jeff smiled inwardly. His job had been done. Just as he was about to make a run for it, he heard crying. He turned around to see a female officer run through the front door, followed by a male officer. He decided to put down the computer hiding in the cornfields to listen in. Mason, get yourself together," the male officer said, turning her around to shake her. "I didn't sign up for this shit, Jane," she cried. "The only reason I became a cop at this town because nothing like this ever happened. You knew exactly what you signed up for," he replied sternly. He let her go and combed her fingers through the gray-black hair. "Murders and psychos are everywhere, not just in the big cities." The female officer pulled her jacket around her. "Maybe so, but what kind of human being would do this to these poor people? And those kids, Jane? They were the same age as my daughter. They probably even went to the same school, didn't they?" "Yeah, maybe," he said quietly. "Come on, let's go inside and wait for the homicide to get here." As they walked back inside, Jeff decided he would stay for a little longer. Someone needed to teach all these cops a lesson for interfering. He especially wanted revenge on that old fart, Officer Jane, was it? Who'll teach that bastard a lesson for calling him a psycho, starting with his little daughter. Jeff wiped the blood off his knife and grinned as he slunk back into the shadows to plan what he would do next.